When we talk about the fall of the Roman Empire, many people imagine the same scenes. Barbarian armies forcing their way through the city gates, collapsing legions, emperors poisoned to death, intrigues unfolding within palace walls. However, history shows us one clear truth. Empires do not fall solely because of external attacks. The real collapse most often begins from within, and one of the quietest yet most destructive causes of this internal collapse has always been the same: money. The Roman Empire did not fall only because of wars, invasions, or political chaos. At the core of Rome's collapse lay the collapse of its monetary system. At the center of Rome's economic power, for centuries, stood a single currency: the silver denarius. The denarius was first minted in 211 BC. At that time, it was made of almost pure silver. Its weight, composition, and value were clear and consistent. This currency was trusted not only within Rome, but across all Mediterranean lands. Roman soldiers were paid in denarii. Merchants demanded payment in denarii. Ordinary people stored their savings in denarii. The denarius was not just a coin, it was the physical embodiment of trust in Rome. As long as people trusted Rome, they trusted Rome's money. But maintaining an empire is not easy. For most of its history, Rome was in a constant state of war. Its borders stretched from the Rhine River to Mesopotamia. Defending these borders required hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Legions had to be fed, wages had to be paid, roads had to be built, aqueducts had to be constructed, cities had to be protected. All of this came at an enormous cost. By the 2nd century, Rome had become overstretched. On one front, it was fighting Germanic tribes. On another, it was at war with the Parthians and Persians in the east. At the same time, rebellions and political crises were increasing within the empire. Tax revenues were no longer sufficient to carry this burden. The emperors faced two choices: either raise taxes or reduce the value of the currency. Rome chose the second option. At this point, a dangerous practice entered the stage of history: the debasement of money. Emperors began reducing the silver content of the denarius. On the surface, the coin looked the same. The emperor's face was still stamped on it, but the value inside was slowly being stripped away. During the reign of Emperor Augustus, a denarius contained approximately 95% pure silver. It was an exceptionally strong and reliable currency. Over time, however, this ratio declined. During the reign of Emperor Caracalla, the silver content fell to around 50%. And by the 3rd century AD, during the reign of Emperor Gallienus, the denarius had become almost completely worthless. Its silver content had dropped to below 5%. A coin once made of pure silver was now minted from bronze, coated with a thin layer of silver. To assume that the Roman people did not notice this would be a grave mistake. When people held the coins in their hands, they felt the change in weight. The color tarnished more quickly. It no longer shined as it once did. Merchants melted coins down to test them. Soldiers realized that their wages were no longer worth what they used to be. And the result was inevitable. Inflation began. Prices rose rapidly. Grain that could once be purchased with a single denarius soon required dozens of denarii. This was not merely an economic concept. It directly affected people's daily lives. Soldiers demanded higher pay. To meet these demands, the state was forced to mint more money. But these new coins were even more worthless. Merchants refused to accept debased coins. Some demanded only gold. Others returned to barter. As money disappeared from circulation, trade slowed. Markets shrank. Urban economies began to collapse. The most dangerous consequence was this: trust disappeared. Money, by its very nature, is a tool of trust. The value of a coin depends less on the metal it contains and more on the trust placed in it. In Rome, that trust began to vanish. People no longer trusted Roman money, only things with intrinsic value: gold, land, goods. As trust in the state declined, political stability collapsed as well. Emperors changed frequently. Rebellions increased. Armies lost their loyalty. The irony was this: at every moment of crisis, the same solution was used again and again. More money was minted, but every new coin was more worthless than the last. This was a vicious cycle. As money lost value, prices rose. As prices rose, more money was printed. Rome never escaped this cycle. Eventually, the Roman Empire collapsed. But this collapse did not happen overnight. It was slow, silent, and internal. By the time the barbarians reached the gates, Rome had already collapsed economically. The army was weak, the people were poor, trust in the state had vanished, and money no longer had the power to hold the empire together. Rome's story teaches us one thing. The moment an empire loses trust in its currency, it enters the process of collapse. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it always echoes in the same way. And money in every age stands at the center of this story.